I can't hear you, Howard. Not hearing, not hearing, not hearing. Uh, okay, let's go with Steve and we'll get back to Howard.
Nevertheless, it seems to me it doesn't matter who agrees or doesn't agree. He is the prime minister of a country legitimately holding office, and that entitles certain deference. And it doesn't matter who we bring over, nobody's going to
Oh, Tess.
agree with everybody. And maybe even if you disagree, maybe it's good to hear what he has to say and why.
Okay, any other thoughts, feelings? Howard?
How about now? You should be able to hear me. No?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Oh, good. Um, yeah, I've been meaning to ask this for a long time. I've been interested. I certainly did not grow up with any interest in Israel, but about 20 years ago, I started getting interested in reading the Jerusalem Post and following things in Israel. And heard Netanyahu come and speak here maybe 15 years ago at one of the Orthodox synagogues in West LA. I know a lot of people hate him. I know well, I don't think you like him very much. I know Thomas Friedman hates him. And this letter gives you kind of reasons why, not really why they hate him, but why they disagree with his policies. And I certainly understand that he should take responsibility for the blunder that the Israeli government and army made in not acting on its own intelligence and being prepared for the Hamas plan, which was certainly well known to Israeli intelligence. But I could never figure out why people don't like Netanyahu. I mean,
It's his haircut.
it's something. It's something. They just. I mean, I hear the terrible things he's done. He's a liar. You can't trust him. But I don't. I don't actually see it. I mean, obviously, I certainly had suspicions since the beginning that his planning on his speech on October 8th and everything else he did had a lot to do with saving his own skin from criminal prosecution. That I always felt that. But so what else is new? What is actually wrong? It seems like certainly when he speaks in public, he's always speaking as someone who is concerned about Israel, whose brother was killed by the Arabs. Uh, who's been prime minister, who has the best interests of Israel in mind. And I certainly don't like what he's doing in order to get power. He's made a deal with the devil with these ultra right wing Meshuggahers that are in his government. But again, so what is new? What else is new?
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to do a role play. I have now elected each of you to be representatives seated in the House of Representatives. Some of you are from Wyoming and some from Texas. Fine. You are a wonderful group of representatives. Now, how many of you think that you want or should sit there for the speech, to be present? How many of you believe you want to be there, or at the very least, you ought to be there when Bibi speaks? So I'm looking to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a pretty solid number. So 7, Howard, you win. 7 of you at least feel if he's coming, we should be there, or feel he's coming and I want to be there. One or the other. Does any one of you representatives, maybe someone from Arkansas, does any one of you feel you would not show up? You have the invitation and you will not come to listen to Bibi. How many of you would say that? Nobody. Very interesting.
Well,
Very interesting. Steve?
I just want to tell you, you shouldn't pick on Arkansas. BDS is illegal in Arkansas, and they are actually, for reasons you can guess, very pro-Israel.
Fine, I retract all the negative expressions I happily made about Arkansas.
And
Okay,
Thais will
Well-
finally have her vote count as she lives there.
okay, Susie.
I somewhat agree with Steve because he
Uh-oh.
was, what?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
I said, uh-oh.
Okay, I somewhat agree with Steve. I think since he was invited and he holds such an important position in Israel, I would go to reinforce why I dislike him so much. Okay? I
Why do
wouldn't
you
go.
dislike him?
I
Why-
want to make
why
sure
do you dislike him?
when my opinion of him is correct.
What is your
I need
opinion of him?
reassurance of that, so I would go for that reason.
Okay,
Why do
anyone
you
else?
dislike him so much?
Huh?
Why do you dislike him so much? I mean, like Trump says, oh, the terrible things they're doing. And you're saying, oh, the terrible things he's doing. I dislike him. But what does he do that you don't
Okay,
like?
we're not going to
Okay.
debate this, but we will give Susie one chance to answer Howard's question. Why is it you don't like him so much?
Because he reminds me too much of Donald Trump.
Ah,
That's honest.
That's it. Okay, that was pretty terse. Okay, so in any event, the visit is coming up, and there will be people not there. There will be people there who will not stand. There will be people there who will not applaud. But he will be there with millions of people on television watching.
Well, Rabbi, it's Brad. Can I
Brad,
just point
yes,
out
hi.
that, yeah, I mean, I'd be very torn. And I think that you've pointed out how this is really just a political stunt for domestic consumption as a way of dividing the Democratic Party. You know, I think it's very politically motivated domestically. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and the invitation came out of political motivation as well. We get that. And Bibi coming here is a lifeline to his tenure as prime minister. Next. The high court in Israel, Beit Mishpat Gavoa, the high court in Israel ruled that we have come to the end of patience in getting Haredim to become subject to the draft. The language is of a social breaking point. Very interesting phrase. I don't know how they say it in Hebrew, but social breaking point. So the Supreme Court has now ruled
I'm on a.
that Haredim must be subject to
Is
the
that right?
draft.
Yeah, you can call me this.
Okay,
It's Susie.
I know. I know. Uh, I think I muted her. Okay. Now, This is complicated. There are many layers. We're going to just start with one of them. Assuming that Haredi teenagers now will be drafted, what must the Israeli army do to get ready to accept them? All right, let's just assume. By the way, that's not a really great assumption, but assume that this is going to go forward. What must the Israeli, it's not just taking in another, 200 kibbutznikim from the Negev. What must the Israeli army, the IDF, do to carry out the draft? Okay, I see Steve and I see Howard. We'll see more. Okay, keep them brief. So there's a lot of stuff today.
Among other things, they're going to have to deal with how to house them, how to form separate units. I think it would be impossible to have men and women in the same unit if you're including these people. It may affect scheduling because they undoubtedly demand more. They observe more holidays and time off, and prayer during the day. I just think, there's a whole bunch of logistics along those lines as well.
Absolutely true. Okay, good. Thank you. Howard.
I believe that the IDF, after it figures out how to deal with the Arab-Israeli problem and create peace, which I think is impossible, then it should figure out how to deal with the Haredi in the army, which is harder.
That's a very non-optimistic view of the world. Okay, so the Israeli army will absorb properly the Haredi young people as soon as Israel concludes a satisfactory peace with the Palestinians.
Oh, and the Messiah comes too.
Oh, you're going to put another thing in there.
Yeah, I thought of another.
I got that. Okay, we got the Messiah tossed in. I see Harv, I see Ray.
Okay, I don't think the tail should wag the dog. I think when you look at the army, you have to fit in. It's not the other way around. The army doesn't make it so it's easy for you to fit in. It's the other way around. And what they're going to have to do on that point is get these people educated to a level where they can be of some use to the army, given maybe their math skills, their written skills or verbal skills, they may not be up to snuff. So they'll probably have to have some educational courses for these people, and then they're going to get thrown into the army. End of story.
That's the old style of, well, son, it's time to teach you how to swim. See this lake? Go. Yes. By the way, interesting, separate but the same, President Biden has now pardoned people who were kicked out of the army for engaging in consensual homosexual sexual activity. So there's some 2,000 people who are being pardoned now, and will be made eligible. I guess that's the important part, made eligible for the benefits, all the stuff that would go with not being kicked out of the army. So yeah, Ray.
Thanks. My impression is sort of a mix, actually, of both Steve and Harv's. I both appreciate that there needs, as Steve addresses, to be reasonable, whatever we think that is, respect for and accommodation for the halakhic observance of the Haredim inducted. But I also echo, maybe not as firmly as I think I heard Harv saying, that it cannot be that this population and only this population enjoys complete 100% capitulation from an institution that exists not for an abstract or halakhical aim, but for a very real world aim where crises and emergencies and saving lives do not happen on a schedule. And what I wanted to connect this with was, however, they manage in the Hatzolah ambulances. And there are a lot of them that come through my neighborhood. These are Orthodox Jews that understand, yes, this is work that we do on Shabbat because it's saving a life. So I don't know how they will find the balance, but some principle along the same lines as the Hatzolah Corps clearly is in order for how they establish protocol for coping with the Haredi inductees.
Let me just do a little bit of language clarification. Hatzalah. Hatzalah, from the Hebrew word lahatzil, Hatzalah is an Orthodox run ambulance corps, and they're really good. They do good things. And what Ray is speaking about is Orthodox guys go into this, and if it's Shabbat and someone is dying somewhere, they'll hop the ambulance and they'll go. Okay, so point taken. That's good. All right. Where were we? Okay, so, there's another thing too. I know this may sound weird, but the other guys who will be, or people who will be fighting next to them are also going to have to be educated. Because there is this profound, reasonable attitude that the Haredim don't defend Israel. And then one day this company of Haredim show up, and it's going to take some education. It's going to take some strong leadership. But social breaking point. This year, 66,000 Haredi boys were declared exempt. 66,000. I want to point out that Israel, you know this better than most, is hovering at the brink of all-out war with Hezbollah. Israel is redirecting its resources, sending more troops up north, pulling them out of Gaza, looking for more recruits. Israel is in desperate need of more soldiers. And 66,000 Haredi kids did not go in. The IDF has increased its monthly draft total by 1,500. In other words, they're, I don't want to say scraping the bottom of the barrel, but boy, for most Israeli kids, getting an exemption from serving in the army now is going to be extremely tough. There is a series of programs in Israel known as mechinot. The singular is mechina. A mechina, generally speaking, is a one-year post-high school program in which students get, and this is voluntary, the students get military training and also do what I would call tikkun olam projects in Israel collectively. So they have a year to adjust going from high school to the army, but they train to get ready for what the army will demand. It's been a very good program. They've just been canceled. Israel has canceled the Mechinot program, which offered exemptions to their students for the 1 year. Do you hear that things are really changing? And Israel is really gearing up for what could be a major war. And it's a problem. Now, a proposed law was put forward in the Knesset. Listen to this. Doubling the legal limit of reserve military duty. We're talking years. Doubling, the kid goes in, serves 3 years, goes into the reserves, shows up once a month, once a year in the summer. It's going to last twice as long over the years than it did before. Reservists may be called up at any moment to serve as much as 128 days. Johnny goes to the army, Johnny comes home, Johnny is in the reserves, serves, goes in for the month in the summer. They call the reserves up to duty, and that can happen immediately, 126 days. Last week, the permitted high was 54. Do you feel what's going on? Okay. You all know the answer to this, but let's just put it out there. How did the Haredim start getting exemptions from military service? You know this. How did that happen?
Is that Ben Gurion?
Yes, it was definitely Ben Gurion. He accepted the demands of the then small Haredi community not to draft the 400 yeshiva students who were eligible at that point. And Ben Gurion said, fine, we'll let it go. Having written this out, and I did this really nicely, I just got a notice that, what did I do? Yes. All of those things have been canceled. The fear that this Supreme Court decision was going to wreak havoc with the ultra right wing caused the Knesset to put all amelioration on hold. That just happened yesterday. So all this business of extra reserve duty, is on hold. Another example of how Israel is crippled by the war and the two ultra right-wing parties in the coalition. Now, I said that. Do you understand what I said? It's complicated, but do you get why the response to the Israeli Supreme Court mandates immediate drafting? The Knesset tried to pass a bunch of things which would delay and postpone. They've been pulled. All that is standing right now is the Supreme Court decision. Will the ultra right-wing parties leave the coalition and bring down the government? Unknown. But it is such a lousy situation. Anything on that? If not, we're going to move forward. Steve?
I don't understand how them leaving the government and bringing it down helps at all, because if they're out of the government, the odds of getting any amelioration seem slimmer, especially if the next government is more liberal.
or less conservative, whatever. Yes.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. The most difficult thing, Steve, is the statement, not a threat, in the Supreme Court decision that the government should withhold funding of yeshivot that refuse to allow their students to be eligible for the draft. That is, how can I describe it? Fundamental for the thriving of the Orthodox world. If Smotrich and Ibn Gvir pull their parties out, as they have threatened to do, if the government doesn't change this, one would assume that those two parties will not make it into the next Knesset. They will lose a lot. And so Steve is asking, why would they do that? So Bibi is asking the same question. And the power of the coercion is weakening because it makes no sense for them to pull out, which means that it gives Bibi more of a free hand. Okay? I mean, this is convoluted, but so am I. Okay. Okay, Sylvia.
What I don't understand is what are they going to do for soldiers if they can't extend their call up for the reserve call up? If they are in fact going to be fighting Hezbollah in northern Israel and they still have a huge deployment in Gaza and they can't call up any more people, and it's going to take them a while, even if they start to try to draft the Haredi, what are they going to do?
Any other questions? In any draft system, there are always large pools of people who don't get called. Let's give a simple example. Mild disability. Okay? They might end up being called as one answer. Secondly, people in certain professions who are considered to be vital for the country would be given exemptions. Those exemptions may be set aside. What I'm saying is, it isn't that they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, but the system cannot easily yield the numbers they need. They have to change how they recruit. But they can. There are plenty of people. And then Israel has already moved a huge amount of fighting units to the north. They're already there, folks. And having them there represents a huge threat. You have a large Israeli military presence, and Hezbollah sends a missile. That's all out war. That's all out war. Let me go on while we're in such a happy mood. Israel is negotiating with Elon Musk. I see a few smiles. What for? Elon Musk has a system of low orbit satellites for communication. It's called Starlink. And because it's Elon Musk, Starlink is available for rent, right? He has an incredibly large system of satellites, Starlink, in the sky, providing internet connectivity if there happens to be an outage anywhere in the world. And without going into detail, it's been used a lot already. Let's assume tornadoes or earthquakes and knocks out internet connectivity. Hi, Starlink, we'd like to buy some time on your satellites. It's already happening. Israel wants to have access to Starlink for internet connectivity should the situation in Lebanon, northern Israel, get worse. This is a big deal. It's a very important thing. Next, the financial and communications ministries of Israel are connecting into Starlink's, get this, 5,000 low orbit satellites. Elon Musk has 5,000 satellites of his own flying in the sky. Are you grabbing this? Israeli finance minister, communications, all want to connect. That's the end of that one. There are many, many things we're going to do. Any thoughts? How much do we still hate Elon Musk? And it's complicated, right? It's complicated. No one in their right mind is going to say, don't deal with Musk, he's mean. They're going to deal. Next, this is a happy thing. Sarah Netanyahu. Name familiar? Bibi's wife. Has gone public with an accusation that the army leaders are trying to carry out a military coup against Bibi. Explain to me how the dominoes might fall from such an accusation. The prime minister's wife has accused the military leadership of organizing a coup against Bibi. What might be the way the dominoes fall? Bibi takes over the army. How bad is that? The army, like in the United States in many ways, has been quite independent. If Bibi takes up the charge that the military is trying to organize a coup against him, he might very well attempt to replace the leaders with his own people and take over control of the military. If that happens, what are the odds of Bibi ever not being prime minister? Okay, Sylvia.
I don't understand. Well, I don't understand Sarah Netanyahu anyway. Why would she? unless she doesn't want to move out of the prime minister's residence, why would she even raise a charge like that, and who would believe her?
She was speaking to a group of
Wait,
families of hostages who were accusing the prime minister of not doing everything to get the hostages home.
mhm.
She offered as an explanation that the military leaders are blocking Bibi and trying to overthrow him. That was the rationale. That's the setting. That's how it happened. Okay.
There was military preventing it, they're not helping.
I'm sorry?
Nothing.
No. If
No, the
if I'm
question,
not clear, that means business as usual. Ask, and I'll try to straighten it out.
no, the question is who believes her?
Sylvia, who believes? What about in our country? Who believes? They believe.
Because it suits their purpose to have someone to blame?
That's part of it. That's part of it. And because they support Bibi and they don't want him to be a bad person. And because, may I guess, they're pretty damn angry at the army for October 7th. There was
But
a
they should also be angry with him.
there was a massive failure
Yeah.
in the military, in intelligence, and these families, many of them, properly hold the military responsible. So there's no love lost with what used to be the strongest pillar of Israeli life.
But the military has accepted blame, and Netanyahu has not.
I know. Oh, Sylvia, you want a rational world, and I'm going to try over the next months. I will try to build one for you. Give me a little bit of time. It's
Okay.
like saying, why would they withdraw from the government? They'll lose everything. And the only answer is, yeah. And okay, Brad.
I'm sorry, Rabbi, it's very noisy where I am, but if you can hear me, you know, our president is commander in chief. Is the Israeli prime minister likewise commander in chief of the
No.
military? What
No.
is the relationship there between the military and the prime minister?
The military is run through the Minister of Defense. They have their own structure, promotions. The orders come from the prime minister. But the military structure is not, the prime minister is not the commander in chief. So, if you will, there is room for disagreement, which is, from an American perspective, fairly strange. But in our country, the military must stay out of politics. In Israel, not so much. Not so much. Okay, gonna go on. Okay, we can relax. Let's talk about Louisiana. Let's go back to America where things are good. Okay? Louisiana. The governor, the state assembly of Louisiana, now passed and signed a law, state law, that requires the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom and in the classrooms of every state-supported university or college. 9 Louisiana families with kids in public school have filed a suit in federal court. The lawsuit on behalf of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, the ACLU Freedom from Religion Foundation, argues that what happened here violates the Constitution.
Yep.
3 of the 9 families are Jewish, which is pretty much the proportion of Jews in Louisiana, I think, right? 30% of all Louisiana is Jewish? No. No, not at all. Okay, Cindy.
Well, I'm against this, obviously, for so many reasons, including young children don't need to know what adultery means. But which 10 commandments would they be doing? The Jewish, the Christian, the Catholic?
The Protestant, they're specified.
It was decided it will be the Protestant version. That was in the law, whatever it is. And you know that the Catholics read the 10 Commandments differently, and the Protestants view it differently, and Jews view it differently. Cindy, the only comment I want to make, you think the kids don't know what adultery is by now?
No, my 5-year-old granddaughter does not know what adultery is.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I'll get yes.
And she doesn't know what coveting your neighbor's wife means either.
The move by Louisiana reflects what I humbly believe to be the greatest single threat to American democracy. And that's the threat posed by Christian nationalists. Do not treat this lightly. They are moving to take over, and we will have no place of equality in a world they control. Do not believe that this election is only about Trump. It's about every Republican representative that we elect. Everyone, even the good guys. That's a problem. Even the good guys. It's called international issues and so forth. Well, down ballot is the issue. Down ballot is where Christian nationalists are getting their strength. They're electing at the local, regional, state levels, and they are doing very well. Any question about, or your reaction to, does anyone think it's okay? By the way, that's a permitted feeling. Really, honestly. Does anybody think we're overreacting to this? And that it's whatever it is, tempest in a teapot? Steve.
We're definitely not overreacting, and it's part of everything. It's one little bit here, so then they can do more, and then they can do more. That's what they did with abortion. First, find a way to overturn Roe, and then leave it to the states. And instead of even putting in laws that 80% of the country would go along with, absolute bans with no exceptions, 6 weeks, it's once they start, they don't stop. And, if every religion, if there were only 3 religions, all of whom have these 10 commandments, and so they warp them a little, I might not feel so strongly. But there are a lot of world religions, Hinduism, that do not have the 10 commandments. They have just principles. And if somebody wanted to say, we could all agree on you shall not murder, and let's put that up in the classroom, I don't mind that so much. But it's that every step they take is an incremental step towards what they want, which is a white Christian country where government and religion are one and the same.
Any other feelings about this? What Louisiana passed was passed a number of years ago by another state assembly, and the Supreme Court threw it out. With our current Supreme Court, there is a possibility that it could survive.
I think it's slim. I think even the Supreme Court may see this as just too much.
We'll see. Ray?
Thank you. There are at least 2 ways to react to this. What is the aim and nefarious motive behind this, which is harder to parse. So I'll stick with the other important piece, which is what is in danger of happening. Clearly, I'm absolutely opposed to this level of entwining state and religion. And I am feeling less optimistic than Steve, though not entirely pessimistic. I honestly don't know what this Supreme Court will do. And I'm recalling a year ago at this time, their ruling on the football coach, Kennedy, I think was his name, who
with the prayer.
He would pray after games on the 50-yard line, and football players would join him. And the dissenters, the predictable 3 dissenters on the Supreme Court, said that this represented an atmosphere of coercion. And I must agree just by common sense that it is. So if they could manage 6-3 in something that I think only a few years ago would not have garnered a majority, or perhaps even close to one, I don't feel as confident about what's liable to happen if a case about this that the ACLU or anyone else is bringing should go so far, and it will, as the Supreme Court. I honestly don't know with this court anymore, and that is terrifying to me.
Can I add just a legal commentary to what Ray said?
Quick.
The court in the prayer case, they relied on false facts, and Elena Kagan had to attach a picture to her dissent. And I think it's a very different issue, and it wasn't that it was so much coercive, but that it was a school activity, and they put it into a bubble that exists. There isn't one for this.
Okay, good. We're there. The Supreme Court, by the way, seems to indicate that it will not make its major rulings until after the evening of the debate. The Supreme Court seems to have indicated through ways that the Supreme Court can indicate that it doesn't want its rulings to become fodder for the debate. So they're going to hold off probably till Monday, maybe Tuesday. Just interesting. Does the name Jamal Bowman mean anything? Anyone want to fill us in on who? Not Steve, we're not going to call on you.
Okay, so that's fine.
Okay, Howard, not going to call. Harv.
Okay, he's a representative in the House of Representatives, Democrat, who had a tough primary, and he lost yesterday to a more moderate Democrat. Bowman is one of the gang, or whatever they call them, the squad, who was pretty much anti-Israel from what I could tell. And AIPAC targeted him, spent a lot of money to get rid of him, and it looks like they were successful. That's all I have to say.
Okay. First of all, I want to say to Ray, you're totally correct. It's irrelevant. Of course you're right, but here we are. Okay. Harv, thank you for that. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? What was the significance of a member of the squad losing? What's the impact of that? Okay, Steve.
I'm hoping, and we've seen it in a few other cases, that rather than the squad growing and pushing this intersectionality and anti-Israel move, that it's showing that it'll be more moderate and we can be pro-Israel, which also will help keep Jewish voters in the party. I also think something else happened that I found fascinating, and that's the statement by AOC this week, which I thought she actually went out of her way to say she opposed anti-Semitism when it seemed like everything she did in the past was extremely anti-Semitic. She tried to distinguish opposition to the Israeli government from anti-Semitism. I think her line may be different than mine, but her actually coming out and expressing that anti-Semitism is bad, I think is her recognition that maybe the squad and the ultra-left had gone too far, and she's actually quite intelligent and I think wants to keep her job.
Okay, now let me throw in, because we're running a little bit short, and I told you this is a big day. AIPAC and the Bowman election. Anyone want to comment on that? Anyone? Howard?
I would comment maybe more on AOC, that I've been following AOC quite a bit since she got elected, and I would distinguish her quite a bit from some of the other ultra, Marxist, leftist, progressivists like Rashida Tlaib and people like that. She's consistently always said that she's anti-Semitic. I believe her. I mean, she's kind of learning on the job, but I would consider her to be a moderate leftist, and I find that I agree with a lot of her things, but not with her support of Bowman.
Her social justice platform is a very good platform.
I think so.
And that's real. Her Israel platform, her relationship with the Jewish community, much more troubled. Bowman's loss. Now, I checked with my inside authority, and I hope you won't repeat this. Shoshana lives in Westchester. The guy who won is the Westchester County executive. So I called up my unimpeachable source and said, besides him being not Bowman, how is he? And she had words of praise. He's a moderate, he's whatever, and is well liked, and it should be a good get for Congress and for the Democrats. So that was nice. But trust me, when they now are quoting how much AIPAC money went into this race, what's a synonym in that sentence for AIPAC?
Jews.
Thank you. Just, okay? So you can say, oh, APAC, 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 that's neutral, APAC, whatever it is. But the dog whistle is very, very clear. And we shouldn't be ignorant of it. Steve, and then I want to go on.
Good. I don't think anyone thinks any pack is neutral. Their very existence is not to be neutral, no matter what side they're on. Equivalent amounts and more have gone to many other candidates, particularly on the Republican side. And in this case, it might be good, but again, people are opposed to Citizens United. And if we didn't have Citizens United, this might not have been accomplished in New York.
I'm going to jump ahead. You know that the ADL has been rated by Wikipedia as generally unreliable in its reporting about anti-Semitism in America. The ADL, its information about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been rated as generally unreliable, and that anything they put out should be read very carefully. You do understand that this has created a storm of issues. And the ADL is denying it. And boy, this one is not going to go away. This is not going to go away. We are at the end. I just want to mention Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum. Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum is the now retired rabbi of Beit Simchat Torah in Manhattan. She's been senior rabbi 32 years. The shul had a $40,000 budget when she started 32 years ago. It has a $5 million budget now. It now has 1,200 members. At her retirement party, Hillary spoke. What's the deal? Why do I mention this rabbi? She took a small community of LGBTQ Jews in Manhattan and built that synagogue into a powerhouse. And over 32 years, she has done a huge amount to raise the positive visibility of Jewish organizations which embrace gay, lesbian, trans, etc., etc. So Sharon Kleinbaum is a name probably you never heard of. People in Manhattan heard of her, and reflects what I like to leave you with. Every once in a while, we get shown that individuals can make a difference. And she has done a fantastic job with her congregation. So we salute her too on her retirement. It's a good thing for American Jewish life. Okay. Okay. Anyone want to yell about something, or do we just quietly fade into the distance?
I just want to thank you for keeping us so well informed.
You don't believe anything I said, do you?
Not really, but I try to.
Okay, that's Susie. As long, okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you. And thank you for hanging in there. And thank you for being here every 2 weeks. And really, if you have a couple of friends who are bright and interested, bring them along. Have a good day and a good week and enjoy tomorrow night. Maya, my granddaughter, is coming to watch the debate, and she's bringing vegan dinner. But I feel good because I think there'll be raw meat on television. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. And thanks for keeping it going to the summer. I know that that's a chore, but such a blessing. And thank you for that.
I agree. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week. What's
You
left?
too. Thank
You too.